Imagine you're at the movie theater watching a chick flick. And all of a sudden you're at the climax of the movie where the guy and the girl are fighting. And the girl is just sitting there in tears as the guy is standing there in silence. It's almost as if they don't know what to say. Well, here's a shocking fact. According to news.9msn.com, accessed February 8, 2012, the article informs me that men actually cry 6 times a year. Shocking, I know. Do you ever wonder how men and women communicate differently? They communicate differently in a couple different ways. Today, I will talk about what communication is and in its importance, the different ways the two opposite sexes communicate, and how they can communicate easier with one another. So, let's get started. What is communication? Well, there are 2 ways of communication, verbal and nonverbal. An example of verbal communication would be talking. In addition, when you're lost, you need to ask for directions. And to ask for directions, you have to talk to someone. Otherwise, you're just going to still be lost. Again, nonverbal communication is with gestures, as in, those are examples. Secondly, what is communication? Well, according to www.merriam-webster.com, accessed February 21st, 2012, communication is the act or instance of transmitting. And why is communication important? Communication is important because it is everywhere you go. Whether it's in a job or if you're trying to socialize, you always need to learn how to communicate. Now that we know what communication is and why it's important, let's go to my next point, the different ways men and women communicate. Men and women are the same sex, yet they communicate so differently. According to www.growmymind.com/communication, accessed February 14, 2012, there are 2 main ways men communicate. Actions, speaking louder than their words, and they like to communicate in large groups. Boys seldom know what to think about their emotions. They have been trained their whole lives to hide their feelings. And if they do have some awareness of what he's feeling, then he feels demeaned if he has to admit what he feels, that self-doubt or fear. Men generally don't like to admit their fears or weaknesses. So now that you know the men's role, let's go to the women's role. The women communicate in 2 different ways too, emotions and dialogue. Girls' friendship focus on making connections. Talk is essential to this process. Sharing secrets, relating experiences, revealing problems, and discussing options are 2 main ways women communicate. It's obvious that men and women don't communicate the same, but that doesn't mean that they can't understand each other. According to Guinea/Gray.sweet101.com, accessed February 17, 2012, the article informs me that the rules of how the opposite sexes can communicate better. Men's role. They don't need to be afraid to talk to someone. And they need to speak out from the heart and actually listen to what the other one has to say. The women's rule is pretty simple. They need to chunk down the conversation, not talk about more than one topic at a time. And lastly, let the guy talk. In conclusion, I have given you what communication is and its importance, the different ways men and women communicate, and how to better their communication. I hope that I've answered some of your questions today about how women communicate differently. So, next time you're at the theater with a significant other, think about the genre you want to watch. It may just affect your relationship with that person once you get home.